convinced somebody was in my house. The hands, the pressure, and then to the point where I grabbed my gun, dude, and I freaking racked that thing.
Okay, get into your ghost story.
Okay,
ghost story, dude.
You want to hit it again one time?
Ghost
Stories with Hardy.
Okay, so I collect Native American artifacts, and I have for about 15 years now, and I love it. It's a huge. I hunt and I fish and I find arrowheads. That's what I do, and I can't remember the year. Let's call it like 4 years ago. It was like around COVID-ish time. I think maybe it was more like 2019. The Cumberland River, which is the main river that runs right through the middle of Nashville. It's like, Tennessee's probably second biggest river. Stayed really high from like November to like April. Like we had a ton of rain and it stayed high. And so when you find arrowheads, I'm sure maybe you guys are familiar with this, but you can either find them like in plowed fields next to running water,
like a riverbed,
river and creek banks and stuff, and stuff like that, but or like river banks, like in the mud, right? Yeah. So this river, the Cumberland, had stayed high, and so basically over the course of months, that running water is just carving inches away from the bank, right? So basically, my buddy and I, we have like a website, and it tells it, you can see the elevation every single day, and we watch it all the time, and it's like, hey, it's down to 18 feet and it's about to rain, let's go look after it, that kind of thing. Yep. And I can't remember if it was me or my buddy, but one of us texted the other one and was like, hey, the river is dropping for the first time in like 6 months. We gotta be the first, because it's a little like you run into other people out there like looking for artifacts. It's like a thing. And so
that's so cool.
We went one afternoon and we found a bunch of arrowheads. Like we were like, holy crap, this is like prime. Like this is a 1 in 5 year like event, like, where there's just stuff laying everywhere. And it was right around dark. And at the time I just had this little John boat, and we were just putting up and down the river, and like we'd pull up to a bank, and like he and I would flip a coin, and one of us would literally go that way and the other one would go that way until you kind of run out of room, and then you'd come back. And we both met back in the boat, and I'd found this really sweet, like really nice arrowhead, and he had found a couple things, and he was like, you got to come see this. And I was like, let's go. So he was like, I found something insane. And so we walked down the riverbank like 200 or 300 yards. And so if you picture the riverbank like a wall, like the actual bank of the river, right? So we're walking like on the beach of the bank, right? So the wall is like brown, and then it just turns black for like, 30 or 40 feet. And there is like flint is what, like you find. So there's flint, and there's like pottery, there's like animal bones, like just dumping, like it's the density was like insane. And so we start kind of looking around, and we're finding like broken arrowheads. He found like a giant flake of flint that somebody had like made a knife out of. It's like the coolest thing ever. Anyway, we find some stuff and we take it. There was no like human bone. There was nothing sketchy, nothing like disrespectful about what we were doing. We just found like a campsite that was very new because the river had been high and washing out. So I go home, don't think anything about it. And this is all, so when I tell this story, a lot of this is after the peak of the story, which I'm going to tell you, but then I start looking back at signs, and I'm like, holy crap, this is what was happening. But I'm going to tell it in the order now for dramatic effect, right? So,
do the button again.
Dramatic effect.
So, like night 3 or 4 after I have my little handful of artifacts that I've put in my cases and stuff like that, I lived in a house almost identical to this. I'm talking like the looks of it, the driveway length, everything. A cabin at the top of a hill in the middle of the woods, almost identical to this. So 4 or 5 nights in a row, my truck alarm started going off. And although I lived in the middle of nowhere, I would lock my truck and bring my keys inside because you never know, And my truck alarm would go off, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, my bedroom. So my house was like this. I had a loft thing just like that, and I had my master bedroom would have been like right up there. And so I would get up and I would go downstairs, and I would like either hit the button on my keys or however I figured out how to turn my truck alarm off. Well, then at the time, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she lived in an apartment in Nashville. There were a couple times where my truck alarm would go off there at this, like I would stay the night with her or whatever, and it kept going off like every single night. Okay, long story short, one night at my house, my cabin that I lived in, my My truck alarm stopped going off. I didn't think anything about it. And I woke up one morning and every light in my house was on. Every single light in my house was on.
No way.
And and I like was again like went to bed sober. It wasn't like I had a wild and crazy night or anything like that. And I was like, man, that's weird. The next morning I would wake up, a few random lights in the house would be on. One morning I woke up and I had my blender and my microwave and a few other of my countertop appliances were unplugged and my kitchen window had been unlatched and pushed open.
Dude, what?
Dude,
what?
It gets so much better, dude. It gets so much better.
It's terrifying.
My wife and I, we had a guest bedroom just like literally under the stairs like this that we were like finishing, and she had bought this mirror. This is all over the span of like a month and a half or 2 months.
Okay.
And so she and I like hung this mirror above our bed. It was like a twin bed. And my wife is like very, she's more of a perfectionist than I am. So she's like just very meticulous and we hung it 50 million different ways. And finally we got it perfect and we looked at it really good and we're like, okay, good. And we go to bed. The next day, the mirror's got a giant scratch across the freaking mirror.
Oh,
Dude, listen. So there was one night, shortly after that, we're watching.
Stop saying it's like this cabin.
I'm sorry.
Almost uncanny.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was this actual.
It's
been a long time. I think
What's the
this was the
address
house.
again? Who was the architect?
One night, she and I, when it was like season 3 of Yellowstone, we were big into Yellowstone at the time, and we're watching Yellowstone, and we hear something downstairs over the noise of the TV. And she was like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. And in my head, I was like, that sounded like a chair just got like scooted across our floor. And I went downstairs the next morning and the chair at my kitchen table had not been thrown across, but was 6 feet out from, maybe 4 or 5 feet out from my chair. And the sound that it made that night, it sounded like, just, yeah. So, okay. So at that point, I'm like, okay, something is going on, and I've lived in this house for like 6 or 8 months, so I know that
this isn't normal.
Right? It's not.
Something's
it's not
up.
like immediately after I moved in.
Something's changed.
So my wife, again, girlfriend at the time, she was like, "I love you. Until this stops happening, I can't stay out here. It's freaking me out." And I like this was my first home I ever bought. I was not even afraid. I was more just like annoyed and like pissed because I was just like, I don't know. There was just this thing in me that was like, man, my first freaking house, and I've got this crap going on, and we can't sleep at night. So,
was she feeling something, or was it like
she knew like with the lights coming on,
Yeah.
and like it would be like we would come downstairs and like something would be weird in the morning. Like
Yeah.
it just I don't know how to describe it, but like a window would be open. It was just something like all the time. So there was one week that I woke up every single night at 2:59 or 3 a.m. on the freaking dot for like 5 days in a row.
that's so dude,
Dude,
that's
it's like
every
out of a
horror movie I've ever
Dude,
seen.
I know, it's like literally out of a movie.
Yeah.
2:59, maybe 2:58, 9 or 3 a.m. every single morning on the dot. And I could not figure out why. And I do not wake up in the middle of the night. So the last night, this was like day 3 or 4 of doing that. And I did every one of those nights, like I didn't think anything about it and I went back to sleep. The last night I woke up and it was at, 2:59, 3 o'clock, and I was in a cold, I was like borderline having a panic attack out of my sleep. Like it wasn't just like something, I felt something I felt like I'm telling you, I had a physical reaction out of my sleep. Like my heart was racing, I was sweating, and I turned my lamp on and I put my feet on the side of the bed and I stand up. And when I tell you like that, so pretend that like chandelier, like that's my master bedroom. When I stood up, something jumped from that balcony to the floor and it ran through my house to the point where I grabbed my gun, dude, and I freaking racked that thing and I ran downstairs and I freaking vetted my entire house. I checked every corner, every closet, and everything because it was so real that I was convinced that somebody was in my house. And dude, there was nothing.
So scared right now.
There was literally
that is the scariest
nothing.
image,
Dude.
Just the
I
running of feet.
So
dude,
he
the
jumped
whole
off the
thing. So
balcony?
I heard the creak of this is how specific it was. If you were like sitting on that and you were to put pressure on it to hoist
Just
yourself
all the
off,
noise
I heard the wood crack from the hands, the pressure, and then a second of pause, and then like
visually, like I need to know like more.
Was it just like
what
a shadow?
I never saw
figure?
anything. I never saw
Oh, it was
anything.
you
I only
just
heard it.
heard.
I only
Okay.
heard it. But I know, and like to the point where like it wasn't a raccoon, dude.
Right.
It was like these were like human feet. It was like human feet.
And a validity to the listeners, this dude hunts all the time, so like
Oh,
you're
my
used
God.
to hearing stuff in the woods and like that's a squirrel, that's a raccoon. Like
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
I mean, it was like the thud shook my windows. Like I heard the dishes in my thing.
like
in
a
my
human-sized weight capacity.
1,000%, dude.
Was the door open?
The door was not open. And dude, I have a basement. I mean, I went through everything. I went outside. I turned all my outside lights on. It was like a whole thing. So at that point, now I'm like, I'm freaked out. And so the next morning, I don't even know. I can't remember if I went back to bed or what, but I called Callie, my wife, the next morning. And I was like, okay, this happened. We got to figure it out. So I can't remember. It was like a girl that she knows from back home, a woman from back home or something. But the woman was like, take sage, go buy sage on Amazon and come inside and sage every corner of your house, every single corner, every single doorway. And you come in with an intention and you tell it to leave. And I felt like an idiot. Like I was like, this is stupid. This is like some hocus pocus craziness. And dude, the next night we went in there and like, we were both like, okay, here we go. And we light the sage and we sage our entire house. And they're like, open every window, open every door. And you tell that thing to get out. This is your house. This is where you live. Get out. And I did it. And dude, not a single thing happened after that. But there's two crazy things to this. So from that moment, nothing ever happened ever again. No sort of paranormal or poltergeist or whatever, like activity. Nothing ever happened except, so my family lives here. So my mom and dad, my sister and brother-in-law and their kids, they all live in Nashville now. My mom, who is like my buddy, does not over embellish, does not lie, would text me and be like, I went out to your house today. It was, it was kind of like my parents would come out there and sit by the fire or like whatever, or, like mom stuff, like she'd come spruce up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And she would be like, I went into your bedroom and the lamp turned on and off, and I would announce out loud, I'm leaving. And then I would go at the one specific day, she was like, I left that room and I went to leave and there was a lamp by the outside door, and she was like, I'm leaving. And as she said that, the lamp by the door turned on and off, and she was like, I know, I'm not going back.
Goodness.
So the second craziest thing was we didn't tell anybody about this for like months. And my buddy who I was with that day, that I guess whatever thing came home with me that day.
Oh, the one you were hunting with.
Yes.
Yeah, looking for stuff.
Lived in like a townhome, and I finally told him, I was like, man, I had a bunch of crazy stuff happen at my house after that first day at the river. And he was like, what day was that? And I was like, well, it was over this span of time. And he was like, man, one night I woke up and my dog was barking, and dude, this is so stupid. But he was like, his dog's name is Layla, and he was like, she never barks. And he was like, I woke up and I heard a thud downstairs, and they live like at a brand new like townhome thing. And the next day he said he woke up and there was nothing downstairs that had been like, moved or whatever. But the latch to his Arrowhead case had been opened, and something had opened the case to his freaking Arrowhead case, where his the stuff that he found that day was in his Arrowhead case.
What?
I swear on my life. And that's it. That's the whole story. Never saw anything crazy, but I always wanted to believe, but I'd never had a story. And dude, that's the realest. I've never experienced anything where I'm telling you, I would wake up and lights would be on in my house, switches had been flipped. And then when I heard the thing jump off the thing and run through my house, it's the realest thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was insane.
Please leave an Arrowhead here just to mess with it.
I almost brought one, dude. I almost brought one for you guys, because I was like, I think I'm going to tell that story tonight. But that's it.
Dude.
I'm so glad you did, but also I can't get out the image of just whatever would jump off the balcony, dude. I'm hearing the thud and the steps running out of the house.
We're going to have fun making a reel out of that.
Dude, that's gnarly. Did that change your perspective on things?
I think so, a little bit. And I actually looked up, there's a ton of Reddit forums and stuff like that of people that say, man, a lot of times when you go to a site where it's very potent with artifacts or whatever, take a dip, take some tobacco, take a cigarette, or something, leave a gift and say thank you for for letting me take your stuff that you made or whatever. Like give an offering a little bit of just whoever that is, and just be like, thank you, I respect this, and I blah blah blah, I respect your craft and all that.
I'm gonna find an
so I
arrowhead.
do that a lot, and they say that you'll actually have a Native American girl actually recently was like, yeah, if you leave a gift, that they will. It's not like luck, but like a lot of times you'll find something really cool if you go in there with respect and leave a little something behind as a thank you.
All the kids are gonna be like, "Wow, I'm gonna go arrowhead hunting," and they just find cigarettes all day, smoking cigarettes.
American can of grizzly, just
just a grizzly can,
mud wall.
Hardy's got a squad of 15-year-olds behind him.
You're gonna follow me following arrowheads, and you're just gonna find bottles of Mountain Dew buried. This is my offering.
They never had that. They probably would love that.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.